Getting it real with RealChunWai on the hottest topics, frank, engaging and candid. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. The Prime Minister has announced that he will forego his monthly salary as well as to slash the pay of his cabinet members by 20%. But how much does a member of parliament earns? And what are their hidden perks? Joining us is the Muar MP, Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman, to tell us more about the challenges faced by MPs and how much do they earn. Salam Bahagia, Malaysia, and followers from around the world. Welcome back to the RealChunWai show. Joining us tonight is the charismatic and very popular MP from Muar, Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman, who will share with us how does a member of parliament, what kind of salary do they get? What kind of hidden perks, if I may use the word, do they get? And of course, this topic has been raised because the Prime Minister has said that he will not take his monthly salary, and the cabinet lineup has been asked to take a 20% pay cut. So is that impactful? Is it symbolic? And do MPs actually deserve to get a better pay compared to their counterparts in Hong Kong or in Singapore or even UK? So to have a balanced and very good discussion with us is, of course, we need a real MP to tell us, okay, what exactly it is. Okay, now, YB, what was your reaction when you heard the news that the PM says that I'm not going to get a salary and that the cabinet has been asked to take a 20% pay cut? What was your reaction?
Oh, I believe it's a symbolic move to show that sacrifice must be done among the executive to send a signal that we are here to serve instead of focusing on our own personal and private interests. So I think in terms of symbolism, it's something which is positive. However, I would caution that the priority of any cabinet and executive should be on institutional reforms and good governance, which move beyond issues of salaries and perks, because let's not forget the multi-billion-dollar corruption scandals, the tens of millions, hundreds of millions, which were stolen and pilfered from Malaysian taxpayers, actually do not come from, that 30,000 ringgit increase of salary, but it came from direct negotiation contracts. It came from false receipts. It came from clear-cut corruption and abuse of power from the executive. So the last thing which we want is to create a situation in which, while in front it looks good, but abuse of power, corruption, mismanagement, in the end will lead to tens of millions, if not billions, being lost, like what we've seen happening for the past 20, 30 years in Malaysia. However, I think the Prime Minister is doing it as a show of symbolism, that sacrifice must be made in order to serve the people better. However, a word of caution, I think the priority should be on good governance and institutional reforms, because the last thing she wants is to save tens of thousands of ringgit per minister, but in the end, billions or tens of millions lost in terms of mismanagement because of corruption at the back. And let's not forget, this is a unity government. There are people with a great track record of corruption and pilfering. I think we should be looking at that as a matter of priority.
I'm also a bit worried, okay? So when I first heard that he's going to forego his monthly salary, I'm one of those people who will not work for free, okay? So when the Prime Minister forego his salary, of course, he will still get his MP salary, okay, and other remunerations. But I'm more concerned with that, we have heard stories, there have been a lot of stories going around that there are corporate guys, politicians, they go to golf courses and place their bets, okay? And of course, that the corporate guys always losers, okay? And the politicians will get some money winning the bets at the perfectly innocent bets at the golf course, okay? And of course, as you say, that tenders, kickbacks, they come in different forms. So there have always been politicians who enrich themselves in different forms. So when people say that they forego the salary, I say, no, I think I expect you to be better paid, so that you don't fall into all these temptations, right? Of taking money from somewhere. Now, I want to understand, okay, now, so the Prime Minister says that he's not going to take salary. Okay, we're fine. Will he still get his pension as a former Deputy Prime Minister?
I think that you have to ask the Prime Minister, but based on my own experience being in cabinet, once you are out, pension is still given. And often the pension is much higher than the salary. The reason why I say this, I remember when I was part of cabinet, Tun Dr. Mahathir shared to us that his salary as a prime minister is much lower than the pension which he was receiving. So when he was made prime minister, there was a huge pay cut. So obviously I don't know the exact details, but this was shared to us. And the reason being, this is why I say when you want to reform something, make sure that it is institutional. It cuts across the board, that there is an explanation behind it so that the public understands. And I believe the reason why, and I shared this before in Parliament, in Malaysia, our pension system for the political elites is really screwed up. What I mean by this, and I said it including to myself, and I'm willing to review it despite the fact that it will affect me. As a minister, sir, despite the fact I only served for 22 months, the quantum of my pension as a minister will not be gauged on how long I served as a minister. Even if I had served for 1 day as a minister, but I served as an MP for 20 years, my quantum will be based on how long I served as an MP, not as a minister. The longer I serve as an MP, the higher the quantum for my minister's pension, right? This creates a perverse incentive for MPs to serve as long as possible, to never retire, right? And hope at the end of their career, they'll be given a deputy minister or minister's post. Even if it's short, it's okay because then I'll retire well. And let's not forget, there are multi-pension schemes. I will receive my pension as a minister, my pension as an MP. If I was a speaker or deputy speaker, there's a different pension. If I'm a senator, there's a different pension. If I had served as a state legislative assemblyman, there's a different pension. Menteri Besar, different pension. Speaker at the state, a different pension. Can you imagine? And I know, sir, you are the institutional memory of Malaysia as well. You know politics very well. You know of people who have served multiple different roles in 40, 50 years. Yeah. So can you imagine all the pensions combined? I think that's what leads the public to be angered. My suggestion in Parliament is to streamline into a single pension scheme, right? I mean, civil service have gone through that. You may have worked in KBS, MOF, defense, but there's still one single pension scheme, and often you take the highest pension. So my suggestion is that. Secondarily, I just want to share, sir, the bigger problem here is usually not the salary. The salary of a minister is actually not that high. And if you look at the salary of a minister, it's actually about a mid-tier, if not a bottom-tier level manager in Malaysia. It's only about, the minister's salary is about 14,000, 15,000 ringgit. But the emolument, the allowances, the hidden allowances, at times are 2-3 times higher than the salary. So in total, I've shared this before, including in my asset declaration. In total, if you're an MP and a minister, allowances plus salary is about 50 to 55,000 ringgit. But if you look at it, the salary of a minister is only about 12 to 15,000 ringgit. But I can still be paid 55,000. Why? Allowances. But sir, that's not. It doesn't stop there. The bigger allowances are actually hidden. For an example, you have unlimited claims. Unlimited, even if it goes to the millions, it is unlimited. If you are a minister, you can bring 1,000 people out and use taxpayers' money on that. So my suggestion on it, we either put a cap or make it transparent, because we do understand that Prime Minister and some ministers will have to entertain hundreds of thousands of people. But if we make it transparent, I think the public will be more understanding about it. The last thing she wants is for it to be non-transparent and a lot of money being lost. That's one. Two, you can get a land in Putrajaya, and you know a land in Putrajaya is very expensive. You get a free plate number. You get huge travel allowances for holiday every year. At the same time, if you are the Prime Minister, when you retire, you get a huge piece of land. I think this has been debated in Parliament, where the former Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Najib, made a claim of about 100 to 200 million ringgit, right? 200 million ringgit, last I recalled, as one of the perks of being the ex-Prime Minister. So I think on this, maybe what should be done is not just engage in a populist path, but is to present all of this publicly, openly, transparently. And once we do that, we streamline, because I believe what the public wants is not for people to not take a salary or to be underpaid. But the last thing you want is for them to be underpaid, like in many developing countries in Africa, where they're underpaid, but then they steal billions behind, right? I think the public wants, where you can be adequately paid, not over or under, adequately paid, but things are made transparent so that there is trust in the process between the public and the electorate with the political executive. I think that's the best way for it. This can be done in a very short debate, 1 or 2 days, get it out, discuss, public knows, scrutiny comes in, and then we provide solutions. And this solution will be long-lasting and bipartisan, because the last thing you want is for one government to do this, and the next government to change it. Make it bipartisan. I think this can be done and it will be good for Malaysia.
As long as I can remember, I've never heard of any MP who has discussed this subject as openly as you, because when it comes to remuneration and rewards, whether you're in the government or you're in opposition, everybody wants to enjoy the benefits. So it's actually not spoken. Everybody says just take it and quietly. Okay, now. So since you have spoken it quite openly, and even for me who had covered Parliament for a long time, I was quite surprised at the amount that the cabinet members were actually getting. You mentioned, of course, you have mentioned that long-term MPs who receive multiple pensions of over almost 100,000 a month, gratuity of R1 million. And of course, we have these ministers who get houses in the Putrajaya. Not everybody wants to stay there, okay? Drivers, expenses, daily meals. I'm actually quite surprised that you mentioned that there's no cap for entertainment. Because even if you're a CEO of a corporate company, there's a cap, okay? And of course, this plate numbers which can be sold for hundreds and thousands of ringgit, and 2 APs approved permits to bring in luxury,
I forgot about
cars,
that.
okay? You mentioned that ministers can get a gratuity of up to R1 million to 2 million ringgit based on their years of service as MPs. Now, after you brought this up, okay, what was your reaction of your counterparts? They said, hey, why is that silly? Why do you bring this up? Did you have that?
Of course, I remember quite a number of people were unhappy when I brought it up. But I said the reason why I brought it up is because I want to instill a sense of responsibility and trust and transparency among the electorate with the political executives. Because the last thing you want is to lie in public, say that, we're only paid this way. So actually, the reason I said that, I remember when I was made minister, when I declared my assets, I declared my income, some only looked at as I shared, they don't look at the allowances, they only look at the salary, because the salary of a minister is public now. So they say, oh my God, you're being paid so low. This is wrong. That's why corruption is rampant. I keep on telling them, no, we're not being paid low. Don't just look at what's shared in public. Look in my asset declaration. My asset declaration, I stated inclusive of everything else. So even when I was called up by MACC, because the easiest way to know whether a minister is corrupt or not is to look at income and the total wealth, net wealth, right? And when I explained to them, I said, this is not new, sir. You can look at my account and look at, this is all from the Ministry of Finance, because that's where my income allowances all come in. They were like, oh, so he's paid this high. And I think I forgot to mention, I shared about the multiple pension. You just now rightfully pointed out about the emolument. Can you imagine, even the emolument of a minister, sorry, not emolument, the gratuity payment, even the gratuity payment of a minister is not contingent on how long or how good that minister serves, but it's based on how long that minister has served as an MP. So that's why, and can you imagine what happened during Sheraton move, right? You get the first gratuity payment when Sheraton happened. So those who have served for like 20 years will get millions. Those who have served like me for 22 months, I think was about 140 to 200,000, last I recall. So you can imagine those who have served 2-3 terms. But imagine those who have, during Sheraton move, those who had to step down and then reappointed again, and then change in prime minister, another gratuity, reappointed again, and then during elections. So to me, these kind of things are truly regrettable. So these are things which I believe, with great transparency, there can be better connection with the public and scrutiny and solutions based on reforms and institutional reforms, which is not one-off.
As a minister then, I do not know whether this perk is available just to minister or to the prime minister or deputy prime minister. The traveling, okay, for family traveling, does it include spouse, family, or the whole family, or what? How does it go?
So last I recall is so the quantum is not based on ringgit. The quantum is based on the expected ticket price. So I remember, I think let's move it to, because the way in which they calculate is per day is about 2,000 to 4,000 ringgit every day. And above and beyond that, they will cover 2 or 3 first class flight tickets to the UK, which, as you know, is very, very expensive. right? So in total, I think, again, depending on how big the size of the family is, how many children, I think children will be economy flight ticket, but there's a way in which you calculate, but minimum is about 50,000 ringgit. You can go as high as 150,000 ringgit. But I remember for myself, and again, this is something which I've shared quite openly and transparently. I think then because I don't fly first class anyway, I don't recall flying first class. So in the end, when you get the money, you can just fly. I mean, my holiday then was short to Bali, to Phuket, and I take the Air Asia flight, which obviously costs less than 1,000 ringgit, not even the flexi seat. So in the end, we end up not even spending it, right? But the way how they calculate is not based on that. The way how they calculate is based on total quantum of the expected flight tickets, and inclusive of how big the family is. So it depends on different ministers.
Yeah, okay. I suppose that it makes more sense if we give you this certain amount of money, and then that how you fly and how you use it, or it's probably an equivalent of a London flight, and so if you're going to use it elsewhere, it doesn't really, because that if you're going to use on a number of family members, then it becomes very complicated.
Correct.
You got wife number 1, wife number 2, wife number 3, number 4. Okay, then it becomes a big headache.
To be honest, I don't know the policy on polygamous marriage.
Yeah, you mentioned you felt that there should be a committee, okay, a committee to review this pension entitlements of assemblymen, members, and parliament. I presume that there has been no response to what you have suggested, right?
Of course, no. I mean, and I brought this up Parliament twice openly. No response whatsoever. I even asked the Minister of Finance then to respond to me, but no response. And now the Minister of Finance is the Minister of International Trade. I hope the new Minister of Finance would respond. And again, don't look at one-off, salary only. Look at all the perks, multiple pensions, emoluments, allowances, everything combined. And I think we can resolve it fairly quickly. And I think this will be good for Malaysia to heal, because then the public will know better, and it would be good for us to move forward as a country.
There's also another case, and actually many cases, okay, where a state assemblyman of a certain political party contesting in one state, then decides to go to another state to contest, then goes to another state to contest. Some could be 2, some could be 3. Does that mean that this particular person or persons will be earning remuneration or retirement pension from 3 different states, for example?
I'm not sure about, because again, usually when it comes to remuneration on states, it depends on the state laws and the state legislative assembly. But it could be very different. Similarly, like how I just shared, how an MP's pension, senator, minister, deputy minister, and then that's from a federal, and then you go to state, it's very different. Speaker, Adon, Menteri Besar, that's different. So very likely it could be the case. But the reason why even me and you are asking this is because there is no transparency. There is no transparency. I only found out of the overlapping pensions based on my own experience, talking to people, looking at my, when I got my something like pension payment. But the good thing is, I remember in the late 1980s, 1990s, Dr. Mahdi said no, because there were also people who were young then who already received their pension. So it's pushed back. I could only receive it when I'm 50 or 55, but I already received the document, right? So we don't know how to quantify in total on the state level because there's no transparency on it.
I think I can. I think generally and fairly say that that is the case. You can receive a pension from different states when you contest. To the best of my knowledge, right? Okay.
There should be a connection of states. People start.
So now it comes to this point. Okay. Now, so when an MP, he has or she has passed away, your spouse will continue to get the pension. Is it a full pension or a certain amount of pension? What's the details of that?
To be honest, I'm not familiar with that.
You're not married, so you're not worried about that.
Very true.
But I think that even for senators and MPs, I think when they have passed away, their wives gets it. I'm just curious. I just want to know, or how much do they get? Is it a full pension or 1/3 or half? I don't know. But do they get?
I can definitely ask this and then get back to you.
For sure.
But I don't know the full facts on this yet.
Yeah. So a senator actually gets a better deal. Senator is three years, right?
Correct.
For one term.
Yeah.
MPs are 5 years,
5 years.
okay? And then that 3 term as a senator, 3 years as a senator,
Yeah.
maximum 2 terms.
Yeah.
And then I don't have a kawasan to worry about. I don't have to listen to
Correct.
grievances from
Yeah.
the constituents. And I get this MP salary, which is of course less than a dear rakyat the person, but still has great benefits.
Yeah.
So again, you have that.
Yeah. If I may just add on that, if I may just add on that, and this is where I think the genuine reform may come in, because I do sympathize with friends in opposition who have been there for the past 20, 30 years, never once a change in government, and their service center and their staff salaries are contingent on their MP salary. I know people like Khalid Samad, who fork out his own salary to pay his 2 staff, to pay the monthly rental. So the problem is not, so to them, they'll say, we need this, right? We need this high salary, etc., because if not, we cannot sustain our constituency. So I think the solution to that is not to dip into a person's salary, but we need to enshrine our very own Constituency Development Act, CDA, our own allocation. And I remember, so I think you may have realized about a few days ago, a past MP raised this up. We deserve to get equal allocations. And I see a lot of government supporters attacking him, saying, oh, back then you were the same, you didn't give us any allocation, you didn't give Saddiq any allocation. Let's not forget, I'm the last MP, sir, the last one to receive my allocation. Despite the fact I've said from the start, I wanted to sign the MOU, but I was the last. But despite that, I'm not the person who believes in vengeance. If anything, our experience in the past would have taught us a lesson that when we're in power, we don't treat them the same way. Oh, because back then you treated this way, I'm not giving allocation. If anything, during my first parliament sitting, I want to ensure that this government gives equal allocations to all MPs. And I do not care if they're in opposition. I do not care if they fought against me. I do not care if they suppress me, because we deserve to heal as a country. This is the time to come together. What we dislike of what they did to us, we don't do to them. We make it better by ensuring fair allocations. If not, you will hear the same thing. Oh my God, I need to ask money from all these rich people. I need to get these contracts. I need to take money from my salary or my income or my savings, because if not, I cannot take care of my constituency. So remove those elements by having a proper reform CDA as proposed by Bersih. I think if we do that, we can move forward better.
And in some political parties, the elected members, the elected representatives of the party, they are required to have their MP salary deducted as contribution to the party. So that makes it even more complicated. In your case, who pays, where do we get the funding? Is it from your MP salary to pay for your staff in Muar, the constituency office?
Yeah. So since I was elected in 2018, up until prior to Sheraton, I could use my constituency funds because that's enshrined. From 2020 onwards, when I was in opposition, I faced a very big problem. So what I did then, I withdrew money from what I saved up before, because my minister, I actually really didn't spend that much as a minister, as an MP. I think so. I don't even spend allowance pinggan mangkok. It's like 50,000, 70,000 ringgit to travel abroad. I don't spend much of that. So a little bit was sustained by that. Above and beyond that, one thing which I believe in is via crowdfunding. So and this I make quite public. Not only that, I even get the account gone through by Ernst & Young via a good governance review. So that's where you see, for example, in Muar, I was able to raise close to, in the 5 years, close to 5 million ringgit, not using government's funds. I taught tuition, which is online during COVID, and it is public. You could see there more than 1,000 people join every session, and I only charge them a very meager 50 to 100 ringgit. But when you combine, you get quite a lot. And I did 2 sessions of those, divided into 5 classes per session. And then I did my botak challenge, where I raised almost 500,000 ringgit. I sold my mom's lasagna. I sold my book. I sold everything. I did many crowdfunding methods to sustain my office. However, not all MPs can do that. Can't expect all MPs to do the same. I was quite lucky and privileged because of my experience and reach in social media. I could do that to help my constituency, but not all can. So to me, the best way forward is to ensure that the ruling government and executive treats all MPs equitably and equally, treat state governments well, even though they are in opposition, because when you are in executive, you don't think whether you're in government or opposition. You are all governments of the day, and you need to work with one another.
Every MP that I know, past and present, they always have constituents who show up at your office and says that I need money for the funeral, I need money for a wedding, I need money for to pay school fees, I need money to pay off my loans. So these are minor amount, but when they add up together, it's quite a pinch to the pocket. Yeah. So in these cases, okay, where do you get your funds to help this small request?
Yeah, so it is a lot. It's not small. I mean, it gets much worse when you are an MP or an ADUN in a suburban to rural seat, because that's where the need increases so much more. Like when you're an MP in an urban seat where in general things are quite good there. So for myself, as I shared, that's what I did from 2020 when I was cut off of my allocations up until 2022. I only received back my allocations like in May 2022, like even though all the other opposition MPs received it in 2021. I do not know why Muda and Saddiq is so special to a point that we were the last one and we had to fend for ourselves despite being in opposition and other opposition MPs getting it. However, I didn't complain much. What I did multiple fundraising efforts. Not just dinners, but as I shared, a lot of online crowdfunding efforts which were put in. But to show how much it is, when I go down to my constituency, at times, I mean, the expenditure is really high. Every time it can go up to 10, 20,000 ringgit. Because, see, at night, people will even come knocking at your door saying that their family's in hospital, there's a funeral, you need to help out. But the bigger cost was during COVID. During COVID, so my office was operational almost every day. And people were coming to get very basic food bank. Per food bank, I don't want to do the small food, you just give beras. To me, that's quite inhumane. You want to give the proper food bank, and for me to do a proper one, and this is with discount, because you have people like KK Mart and Maiden giving crazy discounts, so they're not taking any profits, but they want to help us out. So you buy at cost. Even you buy at cost, a good package is about 75 ringgit, right? But people who come to my office, it's not like 1-2 people. I mean, if you look, there are a lot of articles about this. One day, there can be 100 to 200 people who come. And who am I to say, oh, sorry, you cannot, finish already.
Yeah.
And you know, during COVID, sir, and I know these families well. These are middle class families. These are not like, I know them, I know that they run your very small business. And I think, you know, especially when they come from the Tionghoa community, you know, they don't, it's not up to them to just go plea for help. But when they came, I mean, even I felt like crying because they were queuing up. And they said, you know what, I know you know me, that I come from middle class family, but I really cannot put food on the table. I lost my job. I have to pay my debts. My students are in school. So I cannot just say, oh, sorry, go back.
Must be really desperate. These are not the type who actually join the queue.
Correct.
For
So it was particularly worrying. So that's where the expenditure went off the roof, you know. But I always believe when there's will, there's a way. So I remember when that happened, I did a lot of crowdfunding and multiple different initiatives to ensure that no one in Muar is left behind. And to be honest, I do not care whether they come from an UMNO family or an UMNO voter. I think if you're in Muar, you'll see in terms of my laptop and laptop distribution, they are even anak-anak ketua cawangan UMNO. And I say I don't care whether you're for UMNO, not, whatever your vote is your right, is your choice. But I will help whoever, regardless.
You know, these are simple tasks of MPs. You know, like jalan bocor, potholes. I mean, this is the responsibility of the council or the works department. What do you do when people come and see you for this minor thing? Look, no, it's like, but it affects the life of your constituents. Potholes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I always believe.
Whose responsibility is this?
Okay, if you look at responsibility, you know, from a very legal sense, it's usually the ahli majlis, right? The municipality. But if my constituent come up to me, give this complaint, I tell you, and I tell him or her, it's not my job lah. This is the ahli majlis. I'm going to lose that person's vote, and that person will never come see me again. So in a way, I think Malaysian democracy is quite unique. It's a combination of both. You know, in Western developed countries, people say the role of an MP or senator is purely in the Senate or Parliament. But in Malaysia, it's a hybrid. You are expected to be the welfare officer, you're expected to be the Adi Majlis, and you're also expected to be the member of parliament to bring their voice in parliament. However, I personally believe you do not want to go too much as an Adi Majlis or too much as an MP where you forget constituents. Yeah. But I actually think it's good if there's a balanced hybrid. Why? For you to be an effective policy maker, you must understand the ground and the constituents well. And what other way to understand them well when you're always on the ground, listening to their grouses, their concerns, and only then bring it up to parliament? I give a very simple example, sir. I think I was the first member of parliament to say that we need to give quality laptops and tablets to all B60 children during times of COVID. At that point in time, I remember when I said that, the government was ridiculing me, right? Saying, no, there's no need, it's okay. Internet access is okay. I said, it's not about internet access. I mean, to me, that's already a big problem. But when I go down to Muar, and I go to the most rural parts of Muar, I meet up with this family. I mean, the mother, the father, and they have 6 children, all 6 still studying in either primary or secondary school. In that big family, there's only one smartphone. I'm not even talking about tablet, only one smartphone owned by the dad. And the dad has to go to work. So when dad goes to work, the dad has to leave his only phone to the first child to enter class. So the elders will enter during the first day, and then the second day will be taken by the second child, third child. Can you imagine? I mean, it's so sad. And at that point in time, I realized this is a crisis. And then I brought it up in parliament. I lobbied hard for the Minister of Education to come up with the proper figures. And the proper figures showed that in Sabah, Sarawak, more than 50% of students who are expected to go into online class don't even have a tablet or laptop or even smartphone. In Semenanjung, it's 1 out of 3, right? So I only understood that better when I service my constituents. So I think in the end, it should be a hybrid. Singapore has that as well. Singapore, every week, they have Meet the People session. I remember following the Minister Ong Ye Kang, Education, Transport, and now Minister of Health, following him when I was studying in Singapore. And I witnessed it's almost the same, but they are very organized. It's just like one night and then like a lot of people come. For us, it's like every day. So I think we need to find that balance, but that balance makes us better policymakers.
Maybe what has been your most outrageous request from your voters?
Well, I mean, I one thing which I learned, never ever label them outrageous, because then they will be outraged.
Something you really cannot meet or fulfill, because like it's quite impossible, but you have an angry voter knocking on your door and says, look, you better fulfill it for me.
Oh, they've been a lot. I mean, one which is very recent is that someone who's from the middle class just came forward to my office and say, can I please get a new house? So I thought, when the person was asking for a new house, I thought maybe it was looking I don't know, maybe this person is really from a underprivileged poor family, or want to try access affordable housing, which again, I cannot give the money for the affordable housing. I can try get affordable housing. But it was really, it's the payment for the full house. So I didn't know how to explain. But I mean, I just... Sorry, you're saying?
Then there are those that they may request you that look, they don't want to be admitted into a government hospital, but wants to be admitted to a private hospital.
Oh, there's a lot.
That's quite common.
Right? That's
quite common.
That, to be honest, is very common. Some cases, to be honest, I'll still choose to help. Because, for example, they come to me, and again, to me, the rule, if you come from a B60, I'm not just looking at B40, I want to include the middle class, B60 family. And I've had a case where they come over to go into government hospital. This is a serious operation. They need to wait 6 months. And they cannot wait for that 6 months. Life is on the line. It is a major issue. So then I said, okay, never mind. I'll try subsidize a portion of your private bills. However, you must also help get your family members, friends to help out as well. But usually they understand. They won't, we want 100%. They understand. Yeah.
Coming back to the remunerations of members of parliament, are all members of parliament entitled to apply and get a gun license, for example?
Oh, yes. I believe so. I remember I was offered,
but how many of the MPs actually applied to get guns?
To be honest, I have no idea. I didn't take a lot of my perks, actually. My gun license, my APs. I think I was offered 2 to 4 APs because I was a minister, I was an MP. I never took any. The land in Putrajaya, I didn't take. So, I mean, it depends on who. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up with a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You have been left out of the cabinet. Okay. I understand that the prime minister had his hands completely tied up, meeting the demands of component parties and supporters that look, we want this position, we want that position. But a lot of people also expected you, as a young MP and as a former minister, to actually get the position in cabinet, but you did not get it. One, how did you feel about it? And second thing, that by not being in a cabinet, would it have an impact to the position and progress of your party?
Okay, so those are two different questions. Let's start about me. I don't join politics for positions. And I keep on reminding myself that whenever I'm to do something, I join it to clean up Malaysia, to make Malaysia a truly multiracial, multi-religious country, and a country which is well respected in the eyes of the world. And politics is long. Positions are temporary. If I really only wanted to think of being a minister, I could have just remained as a minister under Tan Sri Muhyiddin's cabinet in 2020. But moving here, I know it's not easy, especially what the Prime Minister is going through. I also know that appointments are based on the prerogative of the Prime Minister, and I respect that. So on that matter, I think it is his prerogative. I've already raised some of my concerns, not on me, but on cabinet appointments in general, especially when it comes to a matter of principle values, which I hold very dearly. But that's, I think, a private matter, and I believe that will be resolved within the coalition. But that's me. But to me, the bigger issue is about Muda, right? Where does Muda go here? That's why during my first meeting with the Prime Minister, after he was made the Prime Minister, I didn't lobby, oh, I need to be made a minister. We should be getting 2-3 minister portfolios. This is the one, 0. There was no discussion about that. But what I talked about was, how can Muda as a party play a role in helping this government? Where is Muda in this government? The reason why I share that, sir, because prior to the elections, I think there were a lot of things which were done. Muda applied to join Pakatan Harapan, but we were informed expressly that we couldn't join because there was time constraint, and KDN, in which ROS is under, the Registrar of Society, is controlled by Hamzah Zainuddin. And Datuk Sri Hamzah will never give Muda the right to join PH. So I said, okay, never mind, we take a back seat. And then we only signed an electoral pact. But in the electoral pact, which we signed, there were very specific things which were discussed. For example, Muda must be part of PH meeting, and there must be 2 representatives. So PH has 5, so we understand we're small, we only have 2. But my concern, until today, we're not included in any meetings. However, I understand, I mean, maybe they have their reasons, and now obviously the government has been formed, KDN minister is a different minister. Back then, they say it's time constraint, now no more time constraint. But I respect, again, I have to respect the government of the day, and that there may be some time issues and a lot of wriggling, especially with dealing with UMNO Barisan Nasional. But my bigger concern as a president of a party is, how do we move forward together? To me, that's the bigger concern. But while I say that, I will not abandon my values, principles, and ideals. And I keep on telling my party, when some of them were concerned, or that it's not about me, I think I stated from the beginning, I want to clear my name. I even told the Prime Minister, I do not want, in a very unconditional manner, I do not want my case to be dropped. And the last thing which I want is for me to be used as a battering ram for other senior leaders' cases to be dropped. Oh, Saddiq can drop, others can be dropped. No. That's why I even told my lawyer, I think Sir Gobind Singh is a respectable gentleman, and even he said the same thing, okay, let's fight it out. And I think we will win it in court, because we need to give faith in court, in the justice system. So I think it's not about me, but what about other Muda members, right? Especially when you see a lot of people being appointed as senators. So where does Muda lie? But while I say that, I will continue to deal with this internally, privately, to find a way forward. I want to ensure that we get a good and stable government which focuses on reforms and building a multiracial, multi-religious country. To me, that's the most important thing. I already have some concerns with what happened, less on Muda, more of a matter of principle. I think you may know, sir. But again, politics is always about balancing things out. But in the end, I really hope that core issues, I just shared with you Constituency Development Act, Political Funding Act, basic institution reform, no politics of vengeance and vendetta. No, enough. Once you go through that cycle, it will never ever end and never ever stop, right? So there are some things which I hold very dearly, because a position is temporary, but institutional reforms are long lasting. Principles and values are long lasting. I do not want to lose that. I hope Muda does not lose sight on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for taking so much time to talk about the deliberations of the lawmakers, the prime ministers, MPs, the demands of an MPs, and of course the future of Muda as well. I wish you all the best.
Thank
and
you
I
very
hope
much.
that I hope to join you on your trip to Muar to try the mini rebus that you have been, what do you call it, really pushing. Okay.
Please do. If you do come down,
Right.
bring your family, and I'll be your personal private tour guide.
It won't cost you a dent to the entertainment claims that you have to make. Okay, guys, take care.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right,
very
cheers.
much, sir. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.